Hey guys, welcome back to the Sunday stream. Um, I'm doing this a little earlier today, so futures hasn't opened. So I'm just gonna quickly look over SPX as some of the key levels that I'm looking at, and then we can move over to the names that I'm looking at as well, the stock names. Um, just before that as well, we have earnings coming up on some key names. Um, Two names that caught my eye, Netflix and Tesla. I'll be going over those, some key levels to look for, and along with all the other names. All right, so from the market standpoint, SPX, we are basically neutral. We are at a stage here where we're currently at support at 34.80. If we were to drop from here, I would look at the next major support at 34.30. We had a hard time breaking it back here on the 9th and over here on the 16th and once more on October the 6th. So if we were to drop, I would look for a hold at 34.30. Obviously, if selling accelerates, my next level of support would be 33.80. That's not to say we won't stop at 3,400. I usually say 3,400 because that's a round number, psychological. Markets tend to stop and people have memories at those levels. So 3,430 would be a stop, 3,400 would be a stop, and if we lose 3,400, I'm looking at 33.80. Do I envision that? I don't know. When I look at this chart on the daily, we had basically a blow off to 3,600, and we couldn't sustain that, and we needed to find support. As you can see, we had plenty of green days here. To me, when I see something like this on the index or any stocks, it rings a bell because we have yet to build support, and that's what happened. We had a big drop here. We found support at 33.30, and that broke, and we went down to 32.30. It's a little more different this time around. We had some stops around 34.30, and then we had a few green days, and we popped up to 35 and change. So when I look at this chart, I would say we're neutral. It really depends on how we open up on Monday and Tuesday. So keep those levels in mind. All right, so one of the first names I'll be looking at, as you guys know, Apple. AAPL, the ticker. So I have a few levels here drawn up. Not much happened with Apple since I last spoke about it on last Sunday's stream. So I'm gonna zoom in onto the 15-minute time mark. And of course, I'll have all these charts posted after the video with levels that you can look at for reference. But when I look at Apple, we're still in this really weird range from 116 to like 122. If we were to open on Monday, just like how we are right here, I would look at my first confirmation of 119.50 to break. And my next confirmation to enter a trade would be at 122. I wouldn't enter at 119.50. I know some people would say that's a overhead resistance, but not really, because we've been stuck into this channel of 123 to 119 for quite a while now. So the safer bet would be a break of 122. I'll be looking at a profit of 123, or if I were to get in at 122, at 123, I would look to increase my position, right? Based on the volume, based on market conditions. So like I've mentioned before, it's not always cut and dry. A level breaks you enter, or a level breaks you short. It doesn't work that way. You got to look at to see what the market's doing, what news is out, what Trump's tweeting. There's a bunch of factors that go in before I enter a trade. Personally, I look at the time and sales. I like to see if there's volume. I like to see if there's a news catalyst. All these things weigh in on my entries and exits. So like I said, the first confirmation would break 119.50, get in at 122, increase my position at 123, take profit at 125. That's in a perfect scenario. We have support at 116, and I have support at 114. Keep in mind, this is a 15-minute time frame. So looking at the 4-hour time frame, I'm pretty bullish on Apple still. However, in the short term, I'm more neutral. I like to see these levels break. 125 and 127.50 are key levels for me. If we can break those two levels, I would consider it a trend change towards the upside. Okay, so that's Apple. Next name, NVIDIA. NVDA is the ticker. So NVIDIA on the 4-hour time frame. We have support at 548 and 544. I wouldn't call these actual supports, I would call them confirmation. So if we were to break 548, confirmation number one would be ticked off the board. Number two would be 544. We break that, it would be a good shorting opportunity down to 535. Some key levels that I'm looking at on NVIDIA, and I think I mentioned this in the last stream, are 560 and 565. These two areas are key. Again, much like Apple, I wouldn't necessarily enter a trade, a call, or go long at 560. 560 would be my first confirmation. 565, 566, just to be positive and sure, would be my next entry point. And my next take profit would be at 578. Not necessarily exactly at 578, because as you can see, these candles wicked to 574, 574, 574, 574, right? So I believe I had my targets to take profit on a few trades that I was successful on was 574 to 578. When I have these targets out there to take profit, these are not always set in stone. It could be 50 cents off, it could be $1 off, but it gives you a general idea of where to take profits. So when I look at this chart, I look at 574, 578 as take profit. Now, if we break that, I'm looking at 590, which I believe is at all-time highs. If I were to zoom out, as you can see, 578, a break of that, my next target would be 590, which is all-time highs. So I'll be keeping an eye on NVIDIA. So the key levels, a break of 566, 565, take profit at 578. Next, if we're really bullish and the volume's there, I'm looking at 590. And obviously, off to all-time highs. Key support 535, 525, 520. Okay, so that's NVIDIA. Tesla is reporting earnings. I believe it's Tuesday coming up. So there's always a lot of hype around Tesla. So the last major news was that we had a stock split. We ran from there as soon as we split all the way to 538, as you can see here. Tesla has had some killer earnings the past 2 quarters, I believe, to my recollection. And Tesla has been one of those names that's been stuck into this small range of 536 to 555. We almost had a breakout last week, and I believe it was a breakout, but the market conditions weren't the greatest. So, like I said before, it's not always cut and dry. Certain names can be bullish, certain names can have a huge catalyst, certain names can boom on earnings, but the market's tanking. That's your compass. You got to understand that. You got to know what the market's doing at all times. You know, if you were to go out into the woods, you just don't aimlessly go left or right. You'd follow your compass. And that's the same thing with the market. You have to follow what the market's doing all the time. And from there, you look at the smaller names, Tesla or whatever you're trading, and you judge from there. So if the market conditions are good and Tesla has strong earnings, I expect us to make all-time highs easily. And I'm looking at levels at 455 to break for a first take profit at 464. But in all honesty, the 455 level is kind of dangerous. It's more of a higher risk. I would look for a confirmation of 455 to break as my first confirmation. 464, 465 would be my entry. Now, where would I take profit? I could take profit at 470 to 471, right? If 471 breaks, I can look at a zone of, which I'm going to draw right here, 484, top of these candles, right? My next one will be 492. Then I have 505. 520, and all-time highs at 540. And that's in the bullish sense. Now, hypothetically, say we tank on earnings, and for whatever reason, the order numbers or China's factory or whatever factory that Elon Musk is, producing his cars at, I'll be looking at a break of 436 as my first confirmation. My next confirmation will be 426. If that level breaks, I'll be looking at a 426 shorting opportunity down to 405. And obviously, if the news is really bad and they just didn't make their delivery numbers for whatever reason, I'll be looking at 388 and 380 as my levels of support. So again, to recap, 455 first confirmation, or if you're more of a risky trader, you enter at 455, take profits at 464, or increase your position at 464 on that break, and look to take profits at 470. And if you missed all that and you're waiting for better confirmation than 464, I would look for an entry over 470 to 472 for a take profit of 492. Okay, so that's Tesla. Netflix, the other notable name that I am looking at this earnings season. So Netflix was one of those names that has had upgrades along with Tesla from analysts, increasing their price targets as some of the major catalysts. So I am bullish on Netflix. Looking at this 4-hour chart right here, there's a lot of data, and one key number that strikes up at me is, 575, which is all-time highs. Let me just look on the daily. Yep, 575 is all-time highs. So some of the key numbers that I'm looking at on Netflix, if we were to open tomorrow, right now it's at 530 on Netflix. I'll be looking at a break of 542, but to break this down a little further, I'm going to zoom into the 15-minute chart to give you guys a better look of where a better entry would be. So my first confirmation, if we were to open up tomorrow at 530, I'll be looking at a confirmation of 536 as my first. Okay, you break 536. Okay, we're at 542. This would be a good entry. Not the most clean cut entry, but it would be a good entry to get in on Netflix. And I would look for a first take profit of 556, 557. However, if we do not reach 557, this area right here would be a good take profit zone. So 556 to 552. Now, why do I do that? Is because we were stopped out right here. We came close right here. Breakdown candle right here. Support of this cluster right here. And we couldn't break it right here. So all these little clues, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, would tell me that we would have a hard time breaking this area. So if I was to set a take profit zone, a break of 542, I would be looking at a take profit zone of 552 to 556 as my first take profit. Now if 556 were to break and volume is convincing, the market conditions are great, earnings are wonderful, I'll be looking at a take profit of 565, and I'll be looking at all-time highs at 572. Now I believe there's a high probability that we do break all-time highs. Netflix is one of those names that during quarantine, COVID, people are staying at home watching, right? So it's one of those stocks that has risen along with Roku. And subscribers, people staying at home, more watching, it could definitely raise the price target for a lot of analysts, and it has. I believe a few analysts have had a target of 625, 630. So if we beat earnings and it does really well, I am looking at Netflix to hit 600. And if it doesn't, I'm looking at support areas, which I can point out right here. A break of 530 could take us down to 522. A good shorting opportunity here, a 522 can take us down to 512 as the next support, and 508. 500 would be my next target as well for support. And that's if things don't go well for Netflix. Okay. Another name I'm going to look at here. I'm not going to look at every single name on my watch list. I'm looking at key names that I think that you guys should be aware of. So the next one would be Zoom. And man, Zoom was absolutely amazing this past week. I know a lot of members, succeeded in taking profits on my calls, and I'm very happy for those members. It's this group is not about you guys watching what I do or entering when I enter and exit when I exit. What I want to do is teach you guys to become confident traders and to do it on your own without me. However, with that being said, I'm just really proud of the people that are developing their trading skills. Some of the members that I've personally mentored one-on-one. Some of my followers that have been watching me for the past few years have really taken notice on some of the tidbits that I leave and my style of trading, and I'm really happy for those guys. So Zoom, some of the key areas that I'm looking at, support at 540. Keep in mind, guys, this is a 15-minute chart. We'll draw this line right here. Support at 540, right? We got rejected here. We finally broke out. We dropped back to it, so that's support. My next area of support would be 548, right? My next area of support, 555. We have all-time highs at 565. Okay, so we are basically at all-time highs right now. And if we were to start the market opening today, we're at 558. Short-term support or first confirmation, we can call it at 555, right? If that breaks, we have support at 548. If that breaks, this would be my key support, 550. If 550 breaks, you could pretty much look at a downtrend developing in Zoom. So 540 key support. Next key support is 530. A break of 530. I'm looking at support around this cluster at 520. We had a top here where we couldn't break 520 for a bit. Buyers got rejected. There was no buyers basically. Sellers pushed the price down. We found support at 500. Now, will this push all the way to 500? I don't know. Key support 500, key support 520, key support 540. On a bullish stand, it's hard to draw levels of where we might go when we don't have overhead resistance. But what I do know in my experience in the market is stocks, psychology, people love round numbers. So I had a target last week of 560, and I believe I entered here around 520 or 530. It was a few days. I absolutely killed on Zoom, by the way. But I had a target where we didn't even have overhead resistance, and I said 560, and the stock exactly stopped at 560, and that was a take profit zone. So if I'm looking at this chart right here, I'm looking at a break over 566 for a take profit of 570, right? And if 570 breaks, I'm looking at 580. Keep in mind, guys, a $10 move in a $600 stock, $700 stock, $500 stock is nothing. It can go up really easily. As you can see here, we went up 4% on Friday, $22. So a 2% move could definitely take us from 565 all the way to 575. No problem. So again, a break of 566, I'm looking at 570. Breaks that, I'll be looking to increase my position to 575, right? We might get rejected at 575. If we stop and consolidate there, I may look to close one of my positions and let the next one roll to 580. So that's Zoom. So keep in mind those support levels. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will have this chart printed out and posted for you guys to check out later on to have reference. Roku. So Roku, I want you guys to keep a tab on because of Netflix. Netflix has earnings, and Roku being similar to Netflix correlates with it very well. So if Netflix is bullish, that could trickle down to Roku. And I want you guys to keep an eye on that. Roku is another one of those names that has been stuck into this small range for a few days. And a key level that I'm looking at is 228.50. This is on a 15-minute time frame. So if I was looking at overhead resistance, 240 would be obviously the all-time highs. I would be looking at support right here at the top of this wick. Sorry, resistance at the top of this wick at 236, right? To 234. And I could say 232. So if I was to look at Roku and we were to open at 222, it's a no touch until we break 228.50, right? That would be my first confirmation. My next confirmation for a safer entry would be 232, 231 and a half. And I would ride that all the way to 236 and a half, right? Why? We wicked right here. Couldn't break it once, 2 times. We also, it was a breakout point right here. So for me, I would look at 236 and a half. If we break 232, 230, you can be a little more risky and enter at 228. I know I have levels drawn out at 228 as a first entry. So it depends on your appetite. It depends on the volume, depends on the market. So 228 could be an entry. 232 could be an entry. You ride that all the way to 236 as a first take profit zone. We break 236, we're all-time highs, no problem. Key support, 220. A break of 220, I'm looking at 214 and a half, 208.96, and 202. I have those levels drawn out on the higher time frames, and I could show you right here. Right? As you can see, 220 held for support. Now it's not perfect. Obviously, these candles are up here at 222. So like I said, stocks love round key numbers, and 220 is a key number on Roku. A break of 220, I was looking at next support at 214 and a half, 215, and then 209, 210 as my next support. So again, to recap, 228, 232, keep your eyes on those levels. Keep your eyes on Netflix earnings, see if Netflix trickles down to Roku. Very similar product. Always look for those correlations. All right. Next name that's notable, Peloton. For some reason, Peloton and Zoom, I always confuse those two, but they're totally different stocks and with totally different numbers. So Peloton, I'm going to zoom in on the 15-minute time frame. Well, let me check on the 1 day. As you can see, it's extremely bullish. So in order to find support and resistance zones on a stock like this, on a 1 day, I'll be looking at the stop right here. Sorry. Looking at a support, 220. Support at 100. 114. And that's on a longer term, 1 day chart. So as day traders, I'm going to zoom in on the 15. And we're currently at 131.5. We have all-time highs and resistance. Let's just say 140 to keep it around numbers. Resistance at 238. This would be more of a confirmation than resistance. I'm going to discuss that in a second. $135. Okay, heading over to support. 128. 126. So if we were to open at 131 on Monday, I would look to see my first confirmation at 129, 128, a break of that. We break 126. I'm looking at 122.5 as my final support on a 15-minute time frame. Now, if we were to open bullish, I would look at 133, 132.5 as first confirmation. 135, 136 as a better entry. Look to increase my position at 138.5 and a take profit of 140 if volume dies down and we get rejected at all-time highs. Either way, I would look to close all of my position or partial position. All because I know at 140 we might get rejected, bounce back to here, consolidate and move forward. I take profit completely on the break of 140 with volume confirming, buyers stepping in along with market conditions would be a good entry. So again, 135.5, 136 is key resistance to break. I have support at 128.5, 126, 122.5. That's Peloton. Okay, the next name, Baba. We were stuck in this range for a bit, playing around on Baba. And you know, I'm keep on looking at that 310 mark as my entry. 310, 310, 50, 30, 311 would be a good entry point. We're nearing all-time highs, but it was stuck in this range. It has been stuck in this range for quite a while, anywhere from 308 to 303. And I don't like playing these small little ranges because it's pretty much just bots trading back and forth, large institutions, right? Killing time, killing options premiums, and I don't like that. I'm more of a breakout trader. I like to see big levels break. And to me, if I'm looking at this and we're at 307.31 to open Monday, I'm looking at 308 as my first confirmation. 310 would be my second confirmation and my entry point just above that, because we are at all-time highs. Of course, the volume has to confirm. Support, I'm looking at 303 to 300 as my support. And if that breaks, I'm looking at 296, 292, and obviously the lows here at 291 on a shorter term basis. So again, all-time highs above 310, support down here at 296, 300, 290. One other name, and the last name I'm going to be looking at today is Square, SQ. We have all-time highs at 193.5. I had this on my watch list last week, and I was keeping an eye on it, but it just didn't materialize, and it didn't break the levels that I was looking for. I'm going to draw a level here of overhead resistance at 392 and all-time highs at, overhead resistance at 192 and 193.5 as all-time highs. So we're at 186.5. My first confirmation I would be looking at is, hey, can we break 187? Great. We broke 187. I would look to enter at 188.5. Take profits or increase my position at 190 with a take profit of 192. Now I wouldn't take my profits instantly at 192 because look, we're almost at all-time highs. So I would look to see if we can break that and hold on till all-time highs and close half my position or completely close it, depending on if we get rejected. We might get rejected at 193, bounce down to 192, 190, then head back up. So as I say, always take profits. You enter in at, first confirmation here, you're like, okay, I broke 187. We're at 188.5. This would be a good entry. A better entry would be 190, right? And you ride that to 193 and possibly all-time highs. If 193.5 breaks, I'm looking at 197 to 200 as my next take profit areas. Again, stocks like this, they need a catalyst. They need something to move forward, and the volume just hasn't been there in the past few days. So I'll continue to leave this on my watch list, and these are the key levels that I'm looking at. On the support side, 183.5, 182 would be support, and we have support down here at 180, 178. I'll just draw that line right here for clarity. Okay. Zoom in on the 1 day to see how it looks. And it's a beautiful looking chart that's basically gone from $32 all the way to $193. So on the 1 day, we're bullish, right? And if I was to draw support and resistance on a 1 day as major keys, 170 would be a key, right? And 193.5 is the breakout. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this stream, this Sunday stream. I'm not able to look at futures at the moment as it has not opened yet. However, as I mentioned, I at the start of the video. 34.80, 34.30, 33.80 as support. And we have 35.35 as major resistance ahead. Big earning week can lead us to all-time highs. Terrible earning week can make us push much lower. Right now, I'm neutral. Let's see how Monday opens. And like I said, always have the market and other major index as your compass, looking at what names to enter. Your names, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, whatever name you're looking at, and you're wondering, well, why did it move up? This was up. Why didn't it go to according to what the analyst said that day? Could be a number of things. The numbers could have been skewed because the market tanked. We could have had job numbers that weren't so appetizing to investors, drop the market. So a number of things can happen, and that's the reason why your stock doesn't go up. So keep that in mind. Always look to the further, bigger time frames for clarity. You look at the market and see what it's doing. All right, guys. So I'm just going to end it right here and wish you guys luck this upcoming week. I'll keep you posted on my trades, and hopefully everyone succeeds and does well. All right. See ya.